So go ahead and come down onto your back. And in the beginning of our somatic practice, we always take a moment just to kind of settle and fully arrive in this present moment. Part of what makes a somatic practice what it is starting to drop out of our heads and into our bodies. And I think for a lot of us, this whole year or two that we've been through together, it's very hard not to be up in our heads right now. And when we are continually up in our heads, we start to forget about the needs of our soma, of our bodies. So this is a time of reconnecting to your body, dropping out of the head and starting to really tune into sensations that you might be noticing in your body. So since tonight we're working on a practice for our backs, you can start to tune in to any sensations in your back body. Let's start down in the lower back region, in the area of your sacrum and your SI joints, and just notice what it feels like there. Notice if one side feels a little more tender than the other. Does one side feel tighter? Notice if one side feels more connected to the ground than the other. And then maybe observing through that lumbar curve. How flat is your lumbar curve, or how much does it curve away from the ground? And these are all different clues to those patterns of maybe which reflex we might be more in. And then notice that area of the mid-back, the thoracic, and how it rests on the ground. Maybe the shoulder blades. Can you tell if one shoulder blade feels heavier than the other, or higher up than the other? And even sensing into the neck region and the trapezius and any particular sensations there. So I'm going to give you guys a couple more moments to breathe, and I'm going to share an opening reading. This is from Jeff Foster, called Dealing with Physical Pain. Your pain, the present discomfort in your body, is nothing to be ashamed of. It is not a sign of your failure, your brokenness, your weakness. It is not a punishment, a test, or even bad luck. It is neither meaningless nor the entire meaning of your life. It does, however, contain great intelligence if you know where and how to look. Friend, begin to see that there is a world of difference between your physical pain, the moment-by-moment sensations in your physical body happening right now, and your suffering surrounding your pain, your thoughts about your pain, your psychological resistance to it. Ask yourself, how much are you actually connecting with your pain today? Being mindful of it moment by moment, feeling the raw sensations in the body, and how much you are thinking about your pain, ruminating, brooding, anticipating, or replaying it in your mind. How much are you present with today's pain? And how much are you thinking about yesterday's pain, or lack of pain, or imagining tomorrow's pain, or even pain a moment from now, bracing yourself for impact, as it were? How much are you in reality, and how much are you in your thought-created fantasies about pain never going away, or imagining that it will become unbearable, or thinking about all the things you did wrong to cause the pain? All the thing your pain has stolen from you, that's suffering, and that's the unnecessary part. So I'll read a little bit more later at the end of our practice. But for now, I'd like you to take a moment now and come into a full body stretch. So reach your arms overhead, and we're going to interlace our palms and turn the palms toward the wall behind you. And then flex your feet and push out through your heels, reach through your arms. Here's where we're creating that side body length that I mentioned in our intro talk. And now we're going to keep that length in the body, and we're going to do a movement pattern called up, slip, down, slip. So an up, slip, down, slip, we're going to slide the whole right leg forward so that the right leg gets a little bit longer than the left. You'll feel a little tightening on that left side. And then slide your whole left leg forward. Push through the heel. And you're going to go side to side. And as you do that, just start to observe those sensations in the area of your lower back, your SI joints, maybe even in through your hip flexors and your psoas. What are you feeling? And you might even try, see how it feels. As you reach through your right leg, press it a little bit into the ground so it's a little more activating. And if that causes too much sensation, then just go ahead and stay with the sliding action. And then keep going a few more rounds. We do each of these movement patterns in repetition, maybe for about a minute or so. Just exploring and moving slowly and fluidly. Now pause for a moment, let your arms relax. And we take these little bits of time to observe after a movement pattern. We're going to repeat that, but with the arms no longer clasped. So separate your palms. And now we're going to reach through the right arm and the right leg at the same time. Reach through your right arm, right leg, get long on the right, a little short on the left. And then alternate, going side to side. Almost like you're climbing up a rope. And you might even add a little bit of an engagement by kind of pressing down through that leg, maybe even through the arm as you reach. That pandiculation is almost like when we wake up in the morning and we take a big yawn. We're actually engaging and stretching those muscles at the same time. So go a few more cycles side to side. Remember to move fluidly, slowly. And if there's any pain, go a little more subtle. Let's try a few more cycles. This is really great if we've been sitting all day, just to lengthen out the psoas, the hip flexors, the side body. All right, go ahead and pause now and let those arms come back down at your side. And take a moment, feel, sense. My teacher says, wait, watch, and listen. So what do you notice in your body after you did that simple little movement? Sometimes we feel a little bit more energy flow. So the psoas, when it's tight, when the hip flexors are tight, it's almost like cutting things off. So feel more flow through the body. You might feel little micro pulsations, little tingles. Okay, from here, we're going to bend the right knee, place the right foot flat on the ground, and we're going to walk the foot and the leg a little bit apart so they're not right next to each other. You're going to be about hips distance apart. Take your arms out to a T. And this one is called Unwinding. So those of you who've done somatics with me before, these are familiar movement patterns, but these are the ones I want to teach you tonight for this back practice. So for this one, also for that area of the hip flexor, we're going to push into that right foot, drop the right knee toward the left knee, look over your right shoulder, and let that right hip lift off the ground, maybe even squeeze the back of the hip a bit to open up the front of the hips, almost a little back bend. And then soften and release back to the starting point. Keep that right foot flat. So let's repeat that one a few more times. And we're going to move on an inhalation. So push off your right foot, inhale, arch your back. You're going to roll toward that big toe side. Let your head roll to the right. And release back to the start. And now continue. It's like a rocking movement. You're rocking in and out of this movement pattern. And we'll do a few more cycles. You can accentuate this by gently pressing a little bit into your right arm, shoulder, head, as you let that hip lift off the ground. Again, if something doesn't feel right, just go ahead and make it more subtle. Let's do a few more. We're going to do 3 more cycles here. Now it's up to you. Sometimes it's nice to practice once you know a movement pattern to close your eyes and get a little bit more inner focus. We call that interoception, really feeling and sensing from within. One more time here. And then we're going to slide that right leg out and take a moment and observe that right leg, right hip compared to the left. Do you notice any differences? So for me, I almost feel like my right thigh is a little closer to the ground. I just feel more presence in that right leg than in the left leg. So let's even ourselves out. We're going to bend the left knee, bring that foot flat. Make sure that there's a little space between your legs, arms out to a T. And then here we go. We're going to push off that left foot. Let your head roll to the left. Your hip is lifting. You might squeeze that glute a bit, which helps open up the front of the hip. And release it back down. And then continue. Inhale. Giving a little arch to the back. And release. So keep that going. As you go into the movement, you might even add that little extra press of the arm, shoulder, head. It's very gentle. We're not being aggressive with these movements, but sometimes that little press down activates things in a different way. So you'll notice that we work in these complementary pairs. So the front of the hip is opening as we're contracting the back. There's that pandiculation. And when we release, then that hip flexor releases down. Each time we come into that arch, we're opening up that crease that we get when we sit a lot. So go ahead and do just a few more cycles like this. Last one here. Remember, moving slowly. And then after that one, go ahead and slide that left leg out. Take a moment. And now feel and sense into that left leg. So we give ourselves these little moments, almost like a little mini Shavasana, just to feel and sense, let the body absorb the work you just did. Okay, go ahead and set your feet flat, both feet flat. Knees are bent. And we're going to put our arms into a goalpost position. This is called Spinal Undulation. We're going to do 2 different versions. And it's very simple. All we're going to do is on your inhale, you're going to tip your pelvis forward so you feel your back arch away from the ground. And then as you exhale, you're going to flatten your lower back, tip your tailbone up, and we're contracting a little more in the front body. So then go ahead and continue that nice little pelvic rock. Inhale, arch. Exhale, flatten. And as you continue, notice that there is a reciprocal movement of your head and your neck, your chin. So as I arch my back, my chin tends to drop toward my chest. And then as I round and lift the tailbone up, that chin lifts a little bit. So just be aware of that. You can allow that movement of the head. But it also is really great to observe, because if we were standing and we were taking these anterior and posterior tilts, that might also be affecting our neck. So in this case, it's okay. We're intentionally doing this, but sometimes the position of our pelvis can affect what our head is doing as well. So maybe close your eyes and continue this rocking motion for a little bit longer. You might notice if there are particular sensations as you arch or as you round. So for me, I tend to be a little bit more of an anterior tilted pelvis. So I like to spend a little more time on the rounded position, just to help balance out that anterior tilt. And if you tend to be the opposite, maybe you'd want to spend a little more time in the arched phase. So just see what feels right for you. So you might even kind of draw out that exhale a little bit longer if that feels good for you. All right, slowly start to come back to stillness. You can keep your feet flat and pause for a moment. Maybe check in with that lumbar curve. How's it feeling? How close is it to the ground? Now for this next version of spinal undulation, we're going to take our hands behind the back of the head. And for this one, we're actually going to lift the head, chest, and shoulders. It'll feel like, or look like rather, like you're doing a traditional crunch, but we're really focusing on the movement of the spine and the pelvis here. So as you inhale, we're going to continue that arching. Tip your pelvis forward, arch your lower back away from the ground, and even press in your elbows, spread wide into the area of your solar plexus, your diaphragm. And then as you exhale, you're going to curl up. Lift your head, chest, and shoulders. Bring your elbows into the side of your head. And then repeat. Inhale, come down. You're arching your back. So the arching and curling makes it a little different from what might be a traditional kind of crunch here. And also, we're not trying to do 100 reps here. We're going mindfully. We're going slowly, and we're sensing within. As you curl up, press your very low back into the ground. And that helps to fire up those lower abdominal muscles, which for many of us, those are very weak, the area below your navel, transverse abdominis. Also, due to lifestyle, due to sitting, we're going to take a few more rounds here. And that's helpful for our lower back to strengthen those lower abdominals. Again, you might spend a little extra time, maybe in that exhale or inhale phase. I really like the exhale phase. A lot of us, our exhale muscles are on the weaker side. And that can lead us to improper breathing, more states of anxiety and stress. So a nice complete exhale. Really start to shift our nervous system. Last couple rounds. One more time. And then we're going to release. Let those legs slide out. Arms at your side. And just take a moment to drop in and feel and sense maybe through the abdominal area. Send a couple breaths into the lower abdomen. Nice soft belly breath after all that contracting. Okay. From here, we're going to be coming over onto our abdomen, but I want you to be careful when you roll over. I want you to try to lift your head as little as possible. So I kind of shift over a little bit and I start to roll, and keep your head as close to the ground as you can. And then just stack up your hands and come into like a crocodile position. So when we keep our head nice and close to the ground, it really helps the vagus nerve. We're not disturbing that so much by constantly lifting up. I know it's hard when you're not used to the movement. You might need to be looking at your screen, but as best you can, try to figure out, listen to the cueing, and use your body intuition to follow along. We're going to prop up now onto our forearms, and you're going to hold on to opposite elbow. So this is the Somatic Cobra. It's a little different. So we're going to press down through our arm bones and lift the chest, and we're going to tuck our toes underneath. So tuck your toes in, and then actually lift your kneecaps off the ground. So your legs are active here. We're going to push down into the arm bones, and from low in your belly, pull forward. Pull your arm bones towards your navel, pull your navel towards your arm bones, and we're lengthening those hip flexors once again. Keep reaching back through your heels, keep your legs active. And then another nice little thing we can do here is take a gentle sway side to side. And as you sway side to side, you might be able to feel that lengthening through those hip flexors, through the psoas area. So keep the legs active. Let's take a couple more side to side movements. And then back to the center, push down through your arms again, pull forward through the belly as you reach back through the heels and lift the kneecaps. And then from here, go ahead and release and rest down again. Maybe give your hips a little wiggle side to side. Okay, so we're going to come into more of a side cobra now. This is one of my favorites. We're going to slide your right knee out to the side, almost like bound angle, and that knee's about in line with your hip. The left leg, we're going to tuck the toes under and lift the kneecap again like we did before. And then we're going to walk the upper body over toward that right knee. So you're in a bit of a side bend. That's it, guys. Looks good. Okay, keep reaching back through your left heel. Keep lifting the left kneecap. And then push down into your forearms. Pull your forearms towards your belly and pull your left rib cage away from your left hip as you look towards your right knee. So for me, I'm feeling a pretty big sensation on that left side. So just observe what's going on for you. And we'll take a couple breaths. Know that the breath is a really integral part to helping those tissues release. So if we're not breathing, the body will sense stress and those tissues will be more reluctant to let go. One more breath here. And then we're going to release it and come back through the center. And let's just pause before we do the other side. Just come down for a moment. Nice breath into the belly. Okay, let's try the other side. So now we're going to slide that left knee out to the side. Come back up onto your forearms. Walk yourself over toward the left, still holding on to opposite elbows. Right toes tucked under, lift that kneecap up. And then pull your arm bones towards you as you look toward that left knee. So I'm not going to do that one with you. I'm just going to watch you guys because I don't want to turn my voice away from you so you can still hear. So think about that right rib cage lengthening away from the right hip as you push back into that heel. Keep your leg active and then take a couple more breaths there. Keep pressing down through your arms. Pull your arms towards you isometrically. We're getting all that nice length into that hip flexor again. Last breath. And then we're going to release and come back to the center and come all the way down. So just take another moment there. Nice breath. This half hour is going to go so fast. We have about 15 more minutes with you guys. We're halfway there already. So let's go ahead and come back onto our backs, but we're going to be careful again how we come into it. So I like to kind of slide my left arm through. It's almost like I'm doing thread the needle, and then slowly roll over so that I haven't even lifted my head up very much at all. And then let's just reorient and let those legs slide out. Take a couple of breaths. So every time we change orientation, it's nice to just take a moment to settle again. So we did a lot of work on those hip flexors, and that's a big piece of dealing with stuff going on in our backs. But we're going to work a little bit more now in the area of the thoracic. So a little bit higher up. So we're going to bend those knees again. And we're going to do a movement called the Russian dancer. Russian dancer, as my teacher called it. Sometimes he also calls it the typewriter because we're moving the arms like a typewriter carriage. So feet are flat and we're going to keep them about outer hips distance apart. We're going to take the arms straight up toward the ceiling. And before we do the typewriter movement, let's do a little bit of pulley action just to get those shoulder blades to protract a bit. Take your right hand and try to touch the ceiling. And you'll feel the shoulder blade go away from the spine. You might feel this through your core. And then other arm. Reach your left arm up, try to touch the ceiling. Feel those shoulder blades protracting. And let's go ahead and go side to side a few times. So we get a little bit of mobility into the area of the shoulder blades. Okay, last round. And then we're going to pause, both shoulders down, and hold on to opposite elbows. Okay, so from here, we're going to take the elbows to the left, the knees to the right, and your head is going to always follow the knees. So in this case, so we're going to let the head go to the right, the knees go to the right, and the arms are gently moving toward the left. And now we'll just switch and go side to side. So take your time, moving slowly like you're underwater. Noticing sensations in your shoulder, maybe through your core, through your back, maybe your hips. So what are you feeling? Just notice. Remember to breathe here. Maybe it's an inhale to center and an exhale into the twist. But do make sure that you're Continuing to breathe, not holding your breath. At any point, you might even stay in the twist and hold it for a few breaths. Sometimes that feels good. You don't want to hold it too long, maybe like 2-3 seconds. And then go to the other side. This gets a little bit of mobility into the area of the shoulders, the thoracic spine. Brings more circulation and fluidity in. Now let's come back up to the center. Keep the arms as they are. While we're here, let's just make a couple circles. So take the arms up and overhead. You still got that elbow clasp, and then down toward your chest. And just circle it around. Again, just maybe feeling into sensations in your upper mid-back, into the area of the shoulder blades. And then once you get up through center, reverse it, go the other direction. Okay, we're going to take those elbows back up toward the ceiling, and then we're going to switch the crossing of the arms. So right now my right arm is in front, I'm going to switch, and then left arm is in front. So just switch the crossing, and we're going to repeat the typewriter movement. So knees and head to the right, elbows to the left, and go side to side. Again, moving slowly, moving fluidly. Try not to rush. Try not to get up in the head. So keep coming back again and again, letting sensation be your guide. It's like you have all of your awareness focused in those sensations in the body. And in that way, we drop out of the thinking mind and into the body. At any point, you might want to hold it again for a few breaths, if that feels good, or you could just keep moving if you like. I feel like I get a little extra by holding it for a few breaths. And after you hold, if you've held it, just go a few more times, back and forth. And then let's come back to the center and do those circles again. So elbows come up and overhead and then down toward the chest. And then reverse it, go the other direction. All right, and then go ahead and let that go. Let the arms come down for a moment. You can keep your feet flat and just drop in, let the arms rest. We observe sensations here. We're going to do one more for the area that is more in the area of the shoulder blade, thoracic area. This one's called Bear Hug. Another one of my favorites. I'm doing a lot of my favorites tonight. So now we're going to take those arms straight up again, and you're going to give yourself a big hug. Press your right arm over your left arm, and you're going to reach back and see if you can grab your shoulder blades with your hands. And you're gonna just lift up slightly and feel like you're pulling those shoulder blades apart. I always say, like, if you had a tattoo between your shoulder blades, you wanna get that tattoo right on the ground. Okay, now we're gonna do a side-to-side movement again. When I first learned this particular movement pattern, I was like, what? I could barely move. It was very stiff. But now I feel like I get more mobility. So if you feel like you can't move a lot in this one, don't worry. As you repeat these kinds of things, you'll get more mobility there. So what we're gonna do is take your elbows to the right and look to your left. And you wanna feel like you're using your hand to pull that left shoulder blade off the ground as if you're gonna peek under and look at your tattoo. And then go to the other side. So you're gonna lift the right shoulder, look under the shoulder, pull with your hand and see if you can get a peek underneath your shoulder blade. And you're gonna go side to side a few more times. Just observing sensations in that mid-back area, shoulder blade area, maybe even in your neck here. So everyone's different depending on our own holding patterns. Going slowly side to side. Keep your knees as still as you can. They might move a little bit, but we're really trying to isolate into that upper back area. Last round, and we're going to switch the arms. Okay, come back to the center, and let's just release those arms for a moment before we do the other side. Take a nice belly breath. And then arms up to the ceiling again, this time left arm on top. Give yourself that big hug. And then try to reach down and grab your shoulder blades. Maybe lift up, pull them apart. And then we're going to take that side to side movement. So going elbows to one side, try to look under your shoulder blade. That shoulder blade is moving away from your spine. And go side to side. Actually, in next week's regular yoga class, not somatic, but regular yoga class, we're going to work on the upper back region, keeping a spacious quality in the upper back. So I might even use some of these movements to help open the back. And in somatic yoga on Thursday through Baransu, at 11, we're going to work on more back stuff. So I have a whole lot more movements that we didn't have time for tonight that I'm going to bring in Thursday's practice if you feel like you need more, because we are running out of time. We're going to do a couple more rounds here. One more on each side. And then let's go ahead and let it all go. Let the arms go, let the legs slide out and drop into the ground. And just let your tissues drop, your bones drop into gravity. Take a nice full belly breath here. And let's do another round of up, slip, down, slip before we finish. So take those arms, reach them into a full body stretch. And let's keep the arms free this time. Right arm, right leg reaches. And then left arm, left leg reaches. Slide it along the ground. One side lengthening, one side a little shortening. Notice sensations that you're feeling. then finishing up this last round, let's go ahead and bring those knees into the chest. Rock a little bit from side to side across that lower back. And just a couple finishing things here. Let's let those knees drop apart. Reach down, hold onto your ankles through the inner leg. Come into like a, I call this the air butterfly, air-bound angle. Let the knees drop apart. Let that sacrum get heavy into the ground. Let your shoulders drop. Head is heavy. Nice soft breath. And from here, coming into seaweed pose, take your legs up toward the ceiling. Take your arms up toward the ceiling. And let your knees be loose, your feet soft, your wrists are soft, elbow joints soft. And imagine you're floating in water. And you're just going to let those arms and legs kind of sway as if you were seaweed. Your back body is anchored into the ocean floor. And your limbs are kind of floating. And it could be like a little circle, or it could be more random. Just whatever feels good. If you do circle, you might want to reverse and go the other direction. Just let all those joints be soft and loose. And then float everything softly back to the ground. Slide one leg out. Slide the other leg out. Then you might jelly roll your legs in and out or bounce them up and down. Make sure your lower back feels nice and loose. Before we drop into Shavasana, let's do a couple neck rotations. Turn your head to one shoulder and gently press that head into the ground. And then slowly recoil back to the start. And then head to the other shoulder. Gently press it into the ground. As you press, you might notice sensation in the neck. And just super slow, go side to side. Our neck is part of our vertebra, part of our spine as well. One more time on each side. And then slowly returning that head to center. We are going to drop into Shavasana now. I'm going to be coming up so I can finish your reading. But if you need any props, do feel free to grab them to cover up or support your body in any way that feels right. Ideally, if we can just drop in and not have to get up and lift our head, but sometimes if we're going to be cold the whole time, it's better to add those props. And then a couple minutes to really settle into the ground. Really let your bones be heavy. Let your tissues soften. Coming into stillness in mind and body. Let the breath be really soft and subtle, gentle. Allow that breath to be nourishing. Allow the exhales to be as soft as the inhales. With every exhalation, releasing a little bit more. Allow yourself to feel spacious, open, receptive, both mind and body. Pain is simply the body's call for attention. It is not a sign that you are broken. It's an invitation to accept your pain as it is. Now let's be clear about this. Acceptance does not mean necessarily liking your pain. Just aligning with the fact that it is here today. It doesn't mean I'm giving up on the possibility that the pain will lessen or disappear tomorrow or next week or next year. It doesn't mean you won't find a cure for the pain eventually. It just means that your peace is no longer dependent on whether or not this happens. You are reclaiming your happiness today, no matter what the future brings. All right, everyone, we're going to start to come back to awareness. Try not to move too quickly. So just start with a slightly deeper breath. Before you even move your body, just observe the effects of your practice. Maybe noticing those areas of the spine that we examined at the start. Maybe notice any shifts in your physiology, maybe your emotional state, mental state. And when you feel ready to, start with small, subtle movements. And let that evolve into bigger movements as you are ready. Try not to rush or make any quick movements. You want to stay relaxed on the inside as long as you can. Hopefully, getting a nice good night's sleep tonight. Take your time. When you feel ready to, go ahead and pause on one side. So we don't want to pop up. Give yourself a moment or two. Maybe curling into a little fetal position or rest your head on your arm. And take a couple of breaths. After a few breath cycles, using the strength of your arms, press into the ground. Try not to use your back so much. Bring yourself up to a seated position. And once you arrive seated, sit up nice and tall. Find the tops of your sit bones. And then we'll bring our hands together in front of the heart space. And take an inhale, allow the heart to lift. And as you exhale, go ahead and bow your head to meet your heart, merging your heart, your head, and your hands. And thank you so much, everyone. Namaste. All right.